5 years ago, you had to pay out the wazoo for a brand new phone.
Yeah.
Now they're handing them away like cheap chocolates at a bad Motel 6 on your pillow. I'm always working, slaving every day. Gotta get a break from the same old, same old. I need a change just to get away. If you could hear me talk, this is what I'd say as we kick off episode number 117 of the UPFront podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Bill Petrie. With me as always, let's call him the platoon leader of the podcast. That's right.
Nice.
The one and only Kirby Hausman. Kirby, I'm sorry I had to wake you up with a little mediocre poison this morning.
Oh, dude, there's no such thing as mediocre Poison.
Actually, yes, there is.
Yeah, I like Poison. They're one of those bands that I think is a lot of people don't like, and I don't know. One of those moments that you grew up in high school that their music moved me, Bill. So I'm doing well, buddy. How about you?
Doing great. Poison, they're fine. They're fine. I'm doing great. We're entering October, and it is the busiest month out of my year, bar none. I'm heading this weekend to Starkville, Mississippi, to see my son. I saw Mitch a couple weeks ago in Tuscaloosa, going to see Drew this weekend.
Nice.
And I'm real excited because we're going to see my Texas A&M Aggies play the Mississippi State Bulldogs. But that's not what I'm excited about, Kirby. What I'm really excited about is he is having me cook for his fraternity's tailgate. I am cooking for 120 angry young Bulldog fans Saturday. So give me and Sandy a little bit of good juju as we try to feed those people. Got some smokers out there, and it'll be a good time. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That'll be super fun.
But right now, and thank you, I appreciate that. But right now, I feel the need to give you a public service announcement, Kirby.
Okay.
Tomorrow is, as we drop this podcast, tomorrow's October 1st. That means there's about 8 million seconds left in 2022, which is, let's call it 65 business days if you're looking at it that way.
Sure.
What that means is now is the time to get with your clients about fourth quarter apparel and holiday gift needs. Our friends at PXP Solutions want to help in any way they can, and as that public service announcement, want to remind you that the earlier you plan, the less likely you'll be to run into those supply chain issues we've been dealing with for the last couple of years. They want you to educate your clients that production time may be longer than normal, and planning and buying early will go a long way into reducing stress this holiday weekend. Kirby, I know you wholeheartedly endorse this public service announcement.
Yeah, I think that apparel is starting to get better from a stock perspective, but it's not back yet. And I think that the other piece that people don't think about is the decoration process. And I appreciate PXP kind of talking through that and we talk about this all the time, being transparent and kind of talking through the challenges that exist so that we can better serve our clients. So I appreciate that. And I think it's super smart.
100% right, Kirby. The good folks at PXP Solutions are ready to work with you to help reduce stress by helping you plan ahead for your apparel decorating needs. They'll even provide a rendering or a creative design to help you close that opportunity. And that's a kind of a gift in and of itself, isn't it, Kirby?
It is.
So why don't you call Bruce Jolesch? He owns the operation. And I tell you what, he's a great guy. I've spent quite a bit of time with Bruce, just a tremendous human being. And as we always say, the company culture takes its cue from the leader, and you can't ask for a better culture than PXP. So call Bruce Jolesch at 214-380-1883. He actually answers his phone. How refreshing. Or you can email him if that's your preferred method of communication at bruce@pxpsolutions.com. You're not going to be sorry you did. Now, Kirby, you have the upfront portion of this podcast today. I wanted to give you a quick shout out before we jump in. You were on a podcast earlier this week. I happened to watch live with James Hicks. That was a really high energy watch. So if you haven't seen it and you can't get enough of Kirby. I know I can't get enough of Kirby, but if you can't get enough of Kirby, watch that podcast. James Hicks, he's on LinkedIn, Twitter, really, really sharp guy. And the conversation you guys had was really a ton of fun. So my own public service announcement to educate yourself and get yourself just a little bit more Kirby. Speaking of a little bit more Kirby, why don't you hit us up with that promo up front, non-award winning topic today?
So thank you, by the way. That was really kind of you. It was fun. James was really nice. I was connected with him through Rich Graham, so I want to give him a shout out too. So it was really cool. So thank you. That was cool. So
absolutely.
Gosh, it's been several months ago. We talked about the idea that Pepsi gave up their sponsorship of the halftime show, and we discussed the halftime show of the Super Bowl. Thank you. And we kind of discussed at the time who might be a great potential sponsor for that. And they've announced who the sponsor is going to be, and it was not one of the people that we suggested, but it was Apple. Apple Music is going to be the new sponsor of the Super Bowl halftime show. The tech giants taking over for Pepsi. And I wanted to just this is sort of what I would look at as a content and branding topic. I'll be honest, when I saw this, I thought, ooh, that's a really good idea. I thought that was a great tie-in. I think so many times, and we've talked about this in the past, there's brand marketing and direct marketing. And I think with something like the Super Bowl halftime show, it's almost purely generally brand marketing, right?
Yep.
For this, there's a direct marketing tie-in when they are promoting the Apple Music venue or Apple Music platform to go up against Spotify or whatever. I actually think there's a great tie-in here to the Super Bowl halftime show, and I wanted to get your take.
Genius, Kirby. Genius. Yeah, that's it.
End.
No, I will tell you. I'll tell you why it's genius. Actually, I'm glad you brought this up because this has been noodling around my Billy brain for the last couple of weeks. It's absolutely genius. Now, Apple, if you've really been paying attention over the last 15 years, they've really been shifting from a technology company to a media company. Now, people still look at them as, well, they make phones and they used to make iPods and they make iPads and they make computers. Yeah, they do. But those are just a vehicle to deliver content, and they know exactly what they're doing. Apple Music is still, I believe, the biggest publisher of music in the world at this point. So they are the largest music company. And so they are promoting that. And, they're going to expand that. I will make a prediction. I'm going to make a bold prediction, Kirby.
Okay.
So the NFL Sunday Ticket, which has been on DirecTV for over 20 years. And if you're not familiar with that product, you could pay about $300 a football season, and you have access to every NFL game not on demand, but live, the entire game. Well, DirecTV is not, they're not going to have that package in 2023, and several companies are going after it. And I will guarantee you that's going to end up on Apple TV Plus. So they're really shifting their strategy to really educate people and have them think more of them as a technology company, as a content company, as an entertainment company, not so much as a hard goods company. And I'll tell you where you can really tell this. 5 years ago, you had to pay out the wazoo for a brand new phone. Now they're handing them away like cheap chocolates at a bad Motel 6 on your pillow. They are handing them. I don't know what that analogy was about.
It's gross.
I'm on fire today.
You are.
But there you can get basically a free iPhone. Whether you're a new customer, current customer. So they're shifting the focus away from more toward media. So no, I think it's great. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I totally agree. This was one of those things, this was one of those things where I saw it and I was like, oh, why didn't I think of this? This is a perfect marriage for something that, I thought Pepsi did a great job and I thought they got a ton of exposure and we discussed that. But you just go, well, I think it's hard in any venue like this to measure how many bottles of Pepsi you sold with that. It feels like the ego metrics are great. But man, I think you're going to be able to actually look at it and go, okay, we can look at how many new customers came to Apple Music or, purchases came from whatever the Super Bowl act was. There can be a direct correlation. I just think that makes a ton of sense.
Well, and I think here's where it also makes a ton of sense. For years, the Super Bowl has trotted out these dinosaur rock acts.
Right.
Not that I don't like them. I do.
Yeah.
But I loved seeing Tom Petty and I loved seeing Prince and I loved seeing The Who and all that. But I mean, we're not the audience, and they've really stopped. They need to stop appealing to us in our age group.
Yeah.
So I think with Apple Music, they have such a stable of artists who are really Apple Music artists that they can put out there that are skew younger. I think that helps the NFL. I think it helps everything. So I think it's absolutely brilliant. Kirby, I think the podcast is pretty amped, but you know what? I'm amping it up even more. I don't care what you say. Stop right there. Stop. Just stop talking. I'm amping it up. Hey, distributors, is your marketing working? If you can't answer with an immediate yes, then yeah, if you're doing the little shruggy guy going, I don't know. If you don't know, well, then you need to hop over to promopulse.io right now. You need to reach out to them. They can help you consistently amplify your sales through stunningly beautiful outbound marketing that's so easy to use. You can customize it, you can set it, and you can forget it in 5 minutes. That's it, 5 minutes. If you want to learn more, promopulse.io/amp. You're not going to be sorry you did. Okay, Kirby, I don't know if you know this, but today, the day this drops, September 30th, is International Podcast Day. Now, generally, when we talk about podcasts here, we talk about, well, what's your favorite podcast to listen to? What are you listening? I don't want to do that. It feels like we've done that a lot, and we've done it recently. I think it's good to revisit that about every year or so, but I don't think there's a need to do that right now. So it's my topic. We're not talking about that. But what I do want to talk about is podcasting. Is a podcast still the important content marketing vehicle, or is it losing its relevancy given the fact that there's so many of them? I mean, the proliferation of podcasts, there's an alliteration for you. The proliferation of podcasts to people is really, really, it's a saturated market. Is it still a viable content marketing vehicle?
Absolutely. Honestly, I think more and more as people do it better and better, right? Like, so it's funny. I talk a lot about this. I mean, if you have a shitty podcast, then no, it's not great, right? But if it's a good podcast that people listen to, I think it is a powerful media. I actually interviewed Tom Schwab. He is the founder of Interview Valet on Delivering Marketing Joy on my other podcast. And it was interesting he talked about OPP. He said
do you know me?
Yeah, that's right. Other people's platforms. He said, if somebody wanted to give him, if Oprah offered to give him $1 million or have him on her show, he would take the eyeballs every time because attention is so powerful right now. And because it is that implicit endorsement. It is that, they get to know and see and trust you. And then all of a sudden it changes the sales funnel. So yeah, I actually think that done right, podcasting is even more powerful. Now, I will say that I think it's shifted, right? It's funny because for me, I'm a listener of audio podcasts generally, because that's when I have the time. I'm running, I'm mowing, whatever. But video podcasting has made it change, and people just consume it differently, and it's a different platform. And I think both of those things are good things. So I'm a fan, and I think it continues to grow.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I agree that there are a lot of podcasts out there, but there's good ones, there's okay ones, and there's terrible ones. And in our industry has a ton of podcasts. And there's good ones and there's terrible ones, and just like any industry out there. And so the cream rises to the top, and I think because it's a great equalizer, right? I mean, there's no barrier to entry really to starting a podcast, so anybody can do it. But to keep doing it and successfully do it to a point where it accomplishes your goals, whatever that is, whether it's to drive business, whether it's to educate, whether it's inform, whether it's entertain, or all the above, or something else, that's this true separator. So it's just like anything else, the cream rises to the top. So it doesn't, just because everybody has one does not devalue the medium. And that's kind of was my question.
Yeah. Well, I think the other piece is redefining success. You and I have talked about this in the past, but I think it's worth saying. Like, I think so many times people will go, well, I have to have 1 million followers. No, you don't. No, you don't. Seth Godin talks about this, that if you have 1,000 true fans, then you have enough to build a business on. You have enough to build a life on. And 1,000's a lot when you're first starting out, but it's also attainable. And so when you can start out and say, look, I've got 20 people listening or 3 people listening, if they're really passionately following you, man, there is super power in that. And so again, I was actually talking about, sorry to go off on a tangent here, but I was actually just talking about this in a video I dropped today, that one of the reasons that people say, well, content doesn't work is because it's not good content. Right? Like if it doesn't entertain, it doesn't educate, it doesn't inspire. And if it doesn't do those things, and it's just something that you're saying is content marketing or a podcast disguised as an ad, then your audience sees through that super fast.
100%. The other thing I would add is people give up on content and developing good content because 2 things. One, they want this immediate reaction.
Right.
And I will tell you, I'll talk about some stats here in a minute about us, but we've been doing a podcast for a long time, and there's times where it blows up and we don't know why. And there's times where it's like nobody's listening, and maybe because it's summer vacations or it's this or it's that. You just never really know.
Or that podcast sucked
people
that
are
week.
Listening. Yeah. But maybe we're off that week. It happens. So, but that's one. But the other thing is, too many people chase likes and comments. They're meaningless, because I will tell you, I look at the stats. I know within really good reason how many people watch or listen to this podcast, and it's a lot. It's lots more than people realize. The amount of comments though and likes and things like that on social, you think 6 people really listen, and it's quite a few more than that. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not going to be braggy here, but we have a very successful, what I think you and I would consider a successful podcast. Now, what I wanted to share though, Kirby, I did a little digging. We've been doing a weekly podcast, save for a 5-week break we took. We've been doing a weekly podcast, you and I, since July 1st, 2016. So for 6 years, minus 5 weeks. Okay. Yeah. Between the 2 podcasts we have 323 episodes. That's 206 unscripted, which you can find over at our friends over at Promo Corner, and 117 this episode of Promo Upfront. That's if we average 30 minutes of podcast, okay, that's 161 and a half hours of listening to us yammer on. That's a lot of us. Yeah, that's 6.7 days of nonstop Kirby and Bill. I've also figured out that was now it's 537 nicknames I've made up for you. 277 times you have said, it's interesting. 392 times.
I don't believe that you counted that.
392 times I've referenced Van Halen.
Okay.
14 times we've podcasted with, let's call it lubrication, shall we? A little bit of boozy booze, a little light deep night situation. Okay. And last 7 times you've walked off the podcast because I was singing. Now, you didn't do that today. Yeah. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. That's all. It was the beginning. I couldn't do it. So International Podcast Day. So hey, if you're podcasting, keep doing it. You get better at it the more you do it. Yes. If you're thinking about doing a podcast, you feel like you have something to say, do it. Jump in. I mean, we need everybody's voice. So there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, again, the thing that you said there was really important, that, if you you start it, keep doing it, you'll get better at it. It takes time for people to find you. It takes time for you to find your tribe. I actually was talking about this with James Hicks the other day, when people will ask me, like, well, doesn't feel like as many people are listening. I feel like I'm in a lull. I feel like this. What should I do? My advice is always do one more tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things, we started out doing this because, frankly, we were paid by Promo Corner. That's how we started doing this, right?
Right.
It's morphed into, for me, and I believe for you, I don't want to speak for you, which means I'm absolutely about to, but this time I'm spending right here, right now with you is enjoyment. This is fun for me. Yeah. It's fun putting it out there. And then, that's it. This is now the peak. I enjoy this. So it's become something that's self-affirming for me. I think you and I enjoy it. I learn from you. I think hopefully we learn from each other.
For sure.
So keep doing it. Keep doing it. All right, Kirby, you got another topic for us?
Yeah. Before I get to my next topic, I'm curious. I thought, why are you wearing a Texas hat? Texas University?
That's not Texas hat. No, that's Texas A&M University, sir.
Okay.
I would not. Burnt orange will never touch the 18 hairs that's left on
I
top
just,
of my head.
I
So
just thought the T, I thought it stood for Texas. So it's fine. All right.
no.
So, poke. So this is interesting. Complete departure. It took a few decades of study, but officials are starting to come around to the idea that high schoolers dissecting a frog at 7:15 on Tuesday might not be a great move. So essentially, there's a new California law, which, by the way, could be a T-shirt. There's always a new California law, but whatever, it's fine. I digress. A new California law in effect this year that requires public schools in the state to start no earlier than 8:30 a.m. Why later? I think you get this, but science says teens need more sleep.
Yep.
And, you know, the sleep deprivation also affects mental health. And we've talked about this before, and I love the work that Promo Cares has done on this. I thought this, I've been holding this topic for a while just because I think it's pretty interesting. But I feel like this is also one of those topics where you're going to hear the crabby old folks, the get off my lawn folks say, oh, back in my day, we could get up at, you know, dark 30 and walk backwards uphill in the snow to school. What's your take on the idea of moving school back to 8:30? Good or bad?
100% good. I'm not a get off my lawn guy on this one. Seeing how, you know, sleep deprivation is a real thing, and you know they having recent high school graduates, right? They're sophomores in college now. I can tell you, I mean, they left it for school at 7:05 in the morning. They had to be there at 7:20 every day, which meant they were getting up at the crack of dawn. They had to eat, and it was always a struggle. And I think that's smart. I think, you know, when we have science that shows typically, right, it's never going to be for everybody, but your typical high school, excuse me, your typical high school person, they peak between this and this. I think you skew to that instead of skewing to, well, we need to run the buses differently. And that's right. How we do, because that's really how it's figured out these days, because they only have a certain number of buses and they got to deliver people here and there. So I think this is great to figure out how to stagger this. In fact, I would even go further. I love our education system to figure out, basically have two almost start times. There are people who like to be there early and want to be at school early, so that maybe they can get off school by 2:00 and go work or go do what they need to do, or maybe they're just more effective in the morning. And there's people who need to sleep in, so maybe there's a different start time at 10:00 and they get out at 4:00. You know, I would love to see that. Now, I mean, that's pipe dream in a public school situation, but I love the idea of catering to your customer, right? Your customer is that student, and when is it best for them to learn, not you're learning now.
Yeah, no, I think I think, you know, the pushback you'd get is that there's logistics involved, and you mentioned the buses, but there's also sports schedules. And I can totally hear, and again, I get thinking through, is that like sports teams, there's so many times that teams aren't getting back until late in the evening from a game, right? And the pushback you're going to hear is that, well, now we have to push back the games later, so it'll end up working itself out. I think overall, though, you know, there might be those exceptions, but I think ultimately, if we know that the human brain works better, and by the way, just from an IQ perspective, dealing with stress, dealing with creativity, if you have enough sleep, you're going to do better. But the idea when we have a bit of a mental health crisis in our country, the idea that we know for sure that there's data that says they're better if we give them more sleep, give anybody more sleep, and we would ignore that, I think would be irresponsible. So I'm wildly in favor of this. So I think it's great.
Yeah, well, and again, recent high school graduates, I know how overloaded they were, in terms of their coursework, in terms of the expectations of them, far eclipsed whatever was expected of me in high school. And so to me, that's just amping up and amping up and amping up in these schedules. I mean, the amount of pressure kids are under today, it dwarfs what it makes us look like slackers when we went to high school. So I think we need to pay attention to that sleep. Sleep deprivation is a real thing. I've actually had it this week. Like I said, I have this big cook coming up on Saturday. I've woken up every day this week, no kidding, at about 3:00, 3:30 in the morning. and I start doing the math. Okay, if I hang the meat here, I got to do this, and just start doing the math of making sure I'm doing that right. And even though I've planned it, I've got a spreadsheet to know when I put this meat on and all that stuff to do it right, because I don't want to disappoint anybody and I want to have fun doing it. Can't get it out of my head. And I'm like, I've told you, I'm like, man, I'm like a zombie this week. That's probably why I'm so amped up on coffee this morning. All right, Kirby, real quick, and then we're going to go right into our football picks. Central Michigan University, I don't know if you saw this, the they sent out stickers. I've been waiting for this one. They sent out stickers to increase fellowship amongst students and alumni. So that's Central Michigan University. I want you to keep those initials in mind. The keyboard stickers that were intended to highlight the acronym CMU. So they were little stickers, you put them on your keyboard. They're printed in school colors, and they fit perfectly on the keyboard. The C went on the C, the U went on the M went on the M, and the U went on the U. However, when it was laid out on the keyboard, and since most of us do read left to right, it spelled a word that is kind of how people finish expressing their love for each other. Let's put it that way. I mean, I'm not going to say the word because this is a PG-13 podcast. Kirby, the question I have for you, how could people not realize that looked the way it did? Because you look at it on a keyboard, it's some nasty business, if you know what I'm saying, and I think you do.
Yeah, it is. The one thing I would say is that everything seems obvious in hindsight.
100%.
Right? That being said, one of my rules of life is to say it out loud. I say that a lot. Like, okay, let's do this and let's say it out loud. Does it sound like it makes sense? Right. I think the alternative to that is just lay it out, proof it, as it were, in our industry. What will this look like on the keyboard? What will this look like in up on a billboard? What will this look like other than in theory? Yeah. And I think this is one of those that they missed that opportunity.
100%. To me, it smacks of, and what I do is if I'm working on something, let's say an ad campaign for Brand of Aid or whatever, I'll ask them, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think? I get outside opinions. Yeah. This smacks of somebody thinking this is a good idea and just being a loboing out, doing it all on their own, not getting an outside opinion, whether it's reading it out loud, sharing it with someone, but it caused quite the stir. It's a hard thing to, kind of get out of your mind, but I don't know. I'm spent on that topic, Kirby. Why don't we talk about some gambling for good? Yeah. Now, for those of you paying attention, we have been doing football picks because, hey, it's fun, and hey, it's content. And we are giving the loser of us, of being me and Kirby, we're just picking 6 games against each other each week, 3 college, 3 pro, and the loser of the aggregate is going to make a donation to PPEF, so we're excited to do that. Josh Robbins is our guest poster again today, and he wanted me to throw out a challenge that he's going to match anybody who has the guts to go against me and Kirby next week. Wow. So let us know. Okay. All right, Kirby. So last week we went 4-4-2. Both of us went 4-2.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, our guest poster went 5-1. So
again, he is a professional gambler. Of course, he
is a professional gambler. He's Josh the Greek. So entering week 5 of this, you are 15 wins. I am 14. So you're 1 ahead of me. All right, Kirby. Now I've got the picks here. You've got the games. I did not see Josh's picks. I made my picks before I saw Josh's. To be very clear, I really want each of us to do this holistically, do the same thing. All right, here we go, Kirby. First game, number 7 Kentucky at number 14 Ole Miss.
Yeah, and so you sent me these games in advance. I forgot to print them off, so I'm kind of doing this as off the top of my head. So I'm going to go Ole Miss on this one because it's at Ole Miss.
Okay. Yeah, the Rebels are really, really tough at home. Going with Ole Miss, as it's Josh Robbins. Josh Robbins is going.
I always love to know what the theme is going to be. It's good. Go ahead.
All right, second game. North Carolina State, the Wolfpack, number 10 ranked, going into Clemson, number 5.
Yeah, that was a wacky game. I actually was halfway through rooting against my own pick last week because it was such a crazy game with Wake
You
Forest.
wanted Wake Forest to beat Clemson last week?
Well, just because I never thought that would be a thing, but I think Clemson's that'll shake Clemson up. I'm going Clemson at home.
Okay, Clemson is really, really tough at home, but I am gonna go with the Wolfpack for an upset, North Carolina State. And Josh is also going with Clemson for your edification. All right, Kirby. Oh, number 9th ranked Oklahoma State heading into Baylor, and Waco, Texas, number 16 ranked Baylor Bears.
I'm a man. Mike Gundy.
I'm 40.
Yeah, that's right. Oklahoma State versus Baylor. Is Baylor ranked?
Baylor's ranked number 16th. Oklahoma State's ranked number 9.
Okay. It's at Baylor. I'm going to go Oklahoma State with Mike Gundy. He's a man.
Yeah, he is 40. All right. I was thinking a lot about
70
this one.
now. We've been saying that for a long time.
I was thinking a lot about this game, but, Baylor plays everybody tough at home in Waco. But I am going to go with Oklahoma State, as is Josh. Both going with Oklahoma State. All right, now we head to the pros. Tonight's game, I like it that we're doing a Thursday night game. It's always a great way to kick off. Good game this week. Boy, Thursday nights used to be the Jaguars versus like the Jaguars practice squad. Now they actually have good games. All right, we got Miami at Cincinnati at the Bengals tonight.
Do we know if Tua is playing?
I believe Tua is playing.
Okay. All right. So here's my philosophy about this. And I'm curious to know what Josh thinks about this too. So my philosophy is when you have two fairly evenly matched teams in the NFL, that I tend to lean toward the team that needs it more. Okay. Miami is 3-0. And if they lose, they're 3-1. A 1-2 Bengals team really needs this one. I'm going Cincy on this one.
Yeah, I had a tough one with this, so it's been fun watching Miami play in Cincinnati, trying to rebound after an 0-2 start. And I'm looking forward to this game. But I got to tell you, Cincinnati plays everybody so tough at home right there on the river. I am going to go with the Bengals as well, as is our resident gambler, Josh Robbins. All right, next game, Kirby. We got Minnesota, the Vikings at the New Orleans Saints. Aha, wait, hold on. This game's in London at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, England. Sunday morning, bright and early, Sunday morning football. So you got Minnesota at New Orleans, Kirby.
So 2 things on this game. Number 1, you're telling me it's not in prime time, which is where Kirk Cousins struggles. So it's not in prime time. And who do I trust more to travel overseas and not be an idiot? Kirk Cousins or Jameis Winston? I'm going Minnesota all day long on this one.
Yeah, I've been watching the NFL probably as long as you have, right? I mean, just forever. I've always been a big NFL fan. If there's one thing I know, that New Orleans plays everybody tough at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I mean, that is kind of their home cooking. But I'm going to have to go against them. I'm going with the Vikings. I do think famous Jameis is going to not play so well. Our resident gambler did, Josh Robbins, New Orleans. He went with the Saints. He thinks that home field advantage, the Cajun food in London's going to fuel him to a victory. All right, last one, Kirby. A surprisingly good game. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. Oh man, this is actually a tough one because I do love to see what the Jaguars are doing, and I think that we're starting to see their quarterback come into his own. I've had fun watching the Eagles though. I think I'm going Eagles on this one, Philly.
Okay. All right. Well, Josh also went Philadelphia. I was thinking about this, and I hate the Eagles with every fiber of my being. As a Dallas Cowboy fan, I'm contractually obligated to do so. But my goodness, they play everybody tough at home. I mean, they really got a home field advantage. So I'm going to have to go with Philadelphia as well on this one. I don't see Jacksonville. I don't feel like Jacksonville is going to do anything positive, but there is somebody who is doing something positive, Kirby, and that's our good friends at PXP, who have a public service announcement for you. Hey guys, we're only 65 business days left in the calendar year to get business done. Gift giving season, now is the time to plan. So their public service announcement is, hey, the earlier you plan, the less likely you'll be to run into supply chain issues. Time now to educate your clients that production time may take a little longer than normal. And number 3, planning and buying early will go a long way to reducing stress this holiday season. The folks at PXP, they do such great work in terms of apparel decoration. They're really poised and ready to help you. They'll come up with any sort of rendering or creative design to help you close any opportunity you may have. But again, get started early. Call our friend and the owner of PXP, Bruce Jolesch, at 214-380-1883, or you can email him at bruce@pxpsolutions.com. You're not going to be sorry you did. Now, Kirby, I don't know about you, but I've enjoyed broadcasting episode number 117 of this podcast, and I look forward to 118 next week. That would be the next numerical number. In the okay, okay, bye.
Dollars.
Hot dogs.
That's right.